Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided. This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlawn Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlawn Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
Welcome. Access to Democracy returns. I'm your host, Alan Miller, and we have a first-time guest with us today. As you know, we have in 15 years and over 1,500 interviews brought you just a little bit of everything. We've had so many sports characters, or I should say personalities, from the Twins, and we've had so many people from the legislature and from the judiciary, and we've had literally doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. We've had everything. And the art community and the theaters and directors and producers, etc. We have never had anybody from ArtiCulture. ArtiCulture, which is based in Minneapolis, and Liz Greenbaum, who is right here, is the founder and executive director. And Liz, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll talk about what the corporation does.
Okay. My background is in visual arts initially. I have a BFA in studio arts, and believe it or not, a degree in biology, zoology, and more recently a master's degree in arts administration.
So you have a BFA in studio arts, though.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we ought to put you to work on one of these cameras.
There you go. Well, more like painting and drawing. Printmaking is was my forte.
Art is art.
Yes.
Art. And where did you get all these degrees?
I got my undergraduate degrees, double major at Michigan State University, and I did my master's at St. Mary's University in Minnesota.
And you're working on which one now?
No, I'm done.
Oh,
I
you're
finished
done.
my master's.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm busy at work at this point.
But you're not a native Minnesotan, or you are?
I'm not a native Minnesotan. I'm originally from the East Coast. I was, my family's from New York. I was born in Connecticut and grew up in New Jersey, and then moved to Michigan when I was in high school.
What part of New Jersey?
Near the Delaware River, Flemington, Hunterdon County. My father
I
was
spent the first 8 years of my life in Trenton.
Oh yes, so
Yes.
we're way north though. So yeah.
Yeah. And I have hazy but fond memories of Trenton, needless to say.
Mm-hmm. I should add that I also have postgraduate work in certification teacher, and I did teach for a while, which segues into a lot of what I do at ArtiCulture.
As we're going to learn, you're doing some teaching here also.
Aha, very good.
Okay, so your really romance with the arts started long ago.
Yes, I have had art in my blood all my life. My father's mother was an artist, and
that could keep you from giving blood to the Red Cross, however. They won't take it if you have art in your blood.
I have given, so.
Oh,
Anyway.
Okay, what brought you to Minnesota?
The arts. I was city shopping. I had decided to move from Michigan to somewhere else. I'd lived in Washington, D.C. for a while. And I really was seeking out a place that was I was looking for a place that really was a cultural hotspot. And it actually surpassed my expectations.
And people find it hard to believe, but the Twin Cities is really a cultural hotspot.
Totally.
We have more arts here than probably any place other than the two big cities on either coast.
Yes, I
It's
would agree.
incredible.
Yeah, it is.
We,
it really is.
we even used to have an orchestra here
Yes, I heard about that.
before
on
the
radio this
management
morning.
of the orchestra
Yes.
decided to take a hard-nosed approach to
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota orchestras, and I would say it's sort of a jackass approach, but locking out the musicians,
Supposedly
spending
they're
$60 million on a
Yep.
new facility and having it with a for rent sign on it as the orchestra goes elsewhere. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
We could go on and on
So-
about nonprofits.
So when
and
did you
arts.
arrive in Minnesota?
I arrived in '88. For many years, I worked in various organizations in the arts. I worked for Forecast Public Artworks for a while, and the State Arts Board. I was an intern, get my foot in the door. I was
The Minnesota State Arts Board.
and became very interested in public art there. I ended up for 10 years at Bloomington Art Center, being their education coordinator and their exhibit curator.
So let's say your curriculum vitae is pretty well stocked with executive and art
Yes.
background.
And I came to the realization that I really wanted to be doing something in my own city, that there was a lack of educational opportunities in the part of the city I live in. I live in South Minneapolis near the river. And I kind of did some benchmarking. And I kind of fell into this. When I got an interview once by someone, they started talking about my life goal, my dream to have this organization, and I really said, I hate to dispel that myth, but to be honest with you, I kind of fell into it.
Someplace along the line, though, you married Josh Roberts.
I did, yes.
I don't
We
know-
married, we both are from the East Coast, and we met here. He was a researcher at the U at the time. He's now a writer. He's always been a writer, but he was a researcher at the U.
And he's a successful and well-known writer.
Yeah, in the sciences.
And
And we have
you
two
have
children.
a family
Yes,
also.
we have
You
two children.
2 children.
Kayla, almost 18 next week,
That's hard to believe.
and Maya, 12. So, yep.
I know you for about a dozen years,
Yep.
so
Actually, you've known us since, a dozen years, because Maya was a baby when we first started.
yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I have seen the children grow up,
And me grow old.
and certainly your older one is now smarter than all of us because she's 18. So
and knows it.
yes,
Yes.
yes, that's the great thing about becoming 18 or
Yes.
thereabouts. You realize when you get to be 25, then you realize that your parents weren't so stupid.
I'm waiting for that.
But
yes.
it's that tough period in between.
Right. Right now, both my kids have decided that I'm not that smart right now, so I'm holding my ground as best I can.
So ArtiCulture was founded in 2000.
Correct.
And how did that come about?
To be honest with you, in the back of my mind, I kind of thought about the idea of starting an organization because I really wanted to do something in my own city. I wasn't seeing anything happening in the vicinity, in the communities that I was in along the river. And I went to our community council, Longfellow Community Council, to get a house grant, which I never got. And I mentioned to them, I said, have you guys ever considered starting up an art center in this area? There really isn't any arts happening in this local community. And they literally pounced on me and they said, would you please start one, we'll help you. And that's how it started. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to find out, different than in the suburb that I worked in for many years, that there was much more of a intense interest in having something like this happen in the arts in the community, in the inner city.
And ArtiCulture became a 501c4?
501c3.
3.
501c3.
So
charitable.
stay out of politics.
Yep, that's fine with me.
Okay, so you started ArtiCulture.
We started it by the idea of,
And when you say
having-
we,
I started it. And we meaning me and a board.
yeah, yeah.
I started it with the intent that we started out with classes because that was the one place we could get earned income. And we knew that we wanted it an educational base. There were some ideas in the back of my mind to have ultimately a children's interactive art space, which It is in some respects. It still has never gotten to that point after two downturns in the economy. But the interesting thing is, along the way, we've kind of weaved and evolved into something different than I had planned originally. So we have our main known entity that we do in terms of educational classes starting age 1 and going through adults. We have summer camps.
Let's back up over that. You have classes for starting at age 1
Starting at age 1.
and going right through adult life, seniors, etc. You could say from infancy to adultery, but you wouldn't want to say that.
Very well put, sort of. Yes, and our goal is that it really enhances children's academic learning. It enhances cognitive learning and skills, hand-eye coordination, fine motor skills. It really helps with children that have behavioral differences from other children, different types of learners, kinesthetic learners and the like. We're also very good working.
Children who have an artistic bent to begin with, as artists are wont to do, usually march to a different drummer.
A lot of them
really
do.
And
But when
look
they're
at the artists in history who are high-strung and very volatile. They started young, and their sort of habits followed them through their life.
Sure. But we think broader than that. I mean, yes, we do have those kids. We do have kids that have very artistic skill sets and the like. But our goal is to not necessarily create artists. Our goal is to create creative thinkers. And so one of the things that we're aware of that the business world has become concerned about is the lack of arts in the schools and how we're losing our innovative thinkers because of that.
Well,
and
that's one of the first things that goes when they slash school budgets.
Exactly.
It's the art teachers who get slashed. It's, one of the troubling things to me is we don't teach social sciences anymore. We don't teach humanities anymore. I had a class in the Holocaust for 6 years at one of the colleges, and students come in, well, we've heard of the Holocaust, had no idea what it was all about.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true of art. We're not teaching with all this emphasis, and I think we're really losing something with all this emphasis on computerization. I think that we're losing, among other things, the ability to communicate.
They talk about, I don't know if you know the terminology they use in the educational world about STEM. So it's science, engineering, ST.
Technology,
Science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah.
And there's really a movement to change it to STEAM. So it's science, technology, education, arts and design, and math. And there's a difference with the arts that really don't fit any other academic learning, where in a creative environment there are no wrong answers. There's a way of learning that is so very different than anything else.
And you can really express yourself.
You express yourself.
You can express yourself through art without really any strictures on you.
And I would say sometimes the strictures are when people ask us, when we're teaching classes, they say, you just put a bunch of art supplies out and let people do stuff and kids do stuff. And it's no, because that to us is not learning. You create a structure where you do have parameters, you do have limitations. And within those limitations and those skill sets you're learning, what can you create? So you're setting up a cognitive way of figuring out, experimenting and learning to get to that end, which may be very different than another approach from someone else doing the same thing.
But you still need to be taught. Now, anything like this has to maintain itself with money.
Yes.
How has ArtiCulture maintained itself?
It's tricky. We are always looking for funding. We do get foundation money. We've gotten money from for various projects through the State Art Board, through the Metropolitan Regional Arts Council, which is kind of an offshoot from the State Arts Board. And we've gotten funding from private foundations, small stuff from corporations, such as the Target Corporation and the like, and then individual donorships. But it is always difficult. It is definitely
especially
hard for
certainly from
nonprofits
2006 and 7 through 2010, when money dried up every place, and we bailed out the banks, but we didn't necessarily bail out local
Right.
art facilities.
And we've really definitely, the nonprofits and arts organizations have suffered because of that. The one thing I can say is because of the legacy money that was voted in 2008, arts organizations like us truly were able to survive from state money, from grants that we received because of that money.
So how
Otherwise,
big-
a lot of us would have folded.
How big is ArtiCulture now in terms of personnel?
Well, we only have 2 actual administrative staff. We're looking at adding a 3rd one to help with grant writing and development in that respect. But we do have probably about 20 to 25 contractual artists that we work with over a period of a year or so, and that waxes
They
and
come in
wanes.
and teach?
They come in and teach. There's probably a core group of maybe a dozen teachers that work with us fairly regularly. And then we do classes at ArtiCulture, but we also have outreach programs that are pretty established, that are kind of, we talk about ArtiCulture as having kind of 3 generic areas of programming. One is the most obvious and well-known one, are classes, or on-site classes. The other one is partnerships with service organizations working with marginalized populations. And then the third one we do is public art projects, working with communities, and within communities that we're working with teens to create public art projects.
And so, is this mostly in the Longfellow area?
We are based, our building, our site is in Seward, because we moved from Longfellow into the Seward neighborhood in 2008, but it's really anywhere. We've done programming, outreach programming.
You've done murals on buildings,
We've
have
done
you,
murals on
right?
buildings, or right
I
now.
mean, I've seen some of them.
Yeah.
But,
We did do a mural that we got a grant for the Seward Market, where there was a Somali shooting in 2010. These Somali gang members shot 3 men and killed 3 men in the market. There was a real desire for the community to acknowledge that in a way that was a positive experience. So we
and a tasteful experience.
right. So we got a group of teens together to create a mural on the wall of that building. The owner did not want a shrine, understandably, and we had to work with his sensibilities in terms of icons not being allowed and represented in the work. So everything we had to do was pass by them. We did get a grant for a photography mural because it was recommended we really do that. It sounds really interesting, so why don't you write that in? And we're saying, sure, we'll do that. We got the grant, and then we're going, never put photographs on a mural on a wall outside. Don't know what we're doing, but we'll have to figure it out now. And so we proceeded to
So that's
figure it out.
beyond the mere painting.
Right. We were originally going to do these photographs on a wall, a montage, gave the teens cameras and started explaining to them. It was basically set up like classes. Okay, every week you're going to do a different theme. You're going to do nature this week, or you're going to go up and down Franklin Avenue, take pictures of experiences you're having. Now this week it will be about what is home to you. So every week there was a different theme. This week let's do about architecture. So we started narrowing down what pictures were good, what worked, what didn't, and why. And then we started realizing, okay, with the small grant we have, we can make 5 4x8 panels. And we had this huge wall to do. And I'm looking at this going, okay, everybody, let's stop and step back a minute. We have to paint this wall too. And they're all looking at me like, okay, Liz, we're in the middle of this project. Are you crazy? And I said, there's a reason why we have to paint this wall. Number one, these photos, this montage of photos, will look really, will disappear on this wall if there's not something that ties them together. And number two, I said, these photographs on this wall will just invite tagging to spots in the wall that are not painted. So we went to the owner, who had just painted his whole building like a year or two before that, and I brought one of our lead photographers working with the teens, who was also Somali. I said, Mohammed, you need to come with me. I know you're going to need to speak the language, and I have to convince this guy who is not a visual person. We have an idea. We're working together as a team to create this idea. I can't show you the picture yet, but you're going to love it. So I took Mohammed with me to have a conversation, and it's like, no, I don't want you to paint over my blue wall. I gave you permission to do the photos, and wait a minute. And I was saying, we love your blue too. We want to use the blue. We're not going to paint over the blue. And so showing him, we want to incorporate that into the design we're going to create. And, then he finally said, okay, go for it. We started working on a sub-team of painters to do the mural part and design the mural, and I was part of that mural part. And I said to the group, including all these teens, and I said, we mural people actually have a harder job than the photo people, because we have to figure out something that is going to tie it all together but not override the pictures. And so we came up with a design that there was a whole section that was not going to have any photographs.
And where can people see this?
Where can people see it? This market is at the corner of East Franklin Avenue and 26th Avenue in Seward neighborhood.
The fact of the matter is, a lot of the people you work with are from an underprivileged community.
Yes.
And that's really important also.
Right. Like I said, we do partnership programs, so we have worked with people with disabilities who've come to our studio to work. Been very successful. That organization was PRI People Resources Incorporated. They do day programming for people with disabilities, and they were moderately disabled. We are now in the process of working and have been working with an organization called People Incorporated, and they work with clients with mental illness, and that surpassed our expectations in terms of what these people got out of the experience, to the point that we want to make this an ongoing project, and we're continuing to look for funding for it.
Now,
It has
do these
turned out to be
classes cost money?
they're funded. So for the clients and the population base that we offer these types of things to with our partners, we find ways with these partners to find money to offer these programs for free to these clients.
Have you utilized Kickstarter?
We have tried Kickstarter with a sculpture project we're working on right now, and unfortunately we did not get our goal. So we're still looking for funding for this sculpture project. We're in the process of working with teens now.
Now this is a step beyond. We're talking about sculpture also.
Right. This summer we're working on a sculpture. This summer, fall, we were hoping to be done by now, but we're just finishing it up. The armature that we're creating, which we're working with a professional company that will put our armature together. The armature is more expensive than we originally planned it to be and expected it to be. So we are in a deficit for the project of about $2,000. So we'll be looking for $2,000 to help fund that.
How much did the whole thing cost, or how much did you raise?
It was originally a grant-funded program project, and we also got an anonymous donor who helped us get some matching funds for that. And I'm also one of the ones who do not know who this anonymous donor was. It was really wonderful.
That's why he's anonymous.
Yes, they are truly anonymous to all of us at the organization. And I think so far we have enough funding for about, I think it's about $18,500, and we just need a couple more thousand to.
The sculpture is a little bit more expensive than
It
just
is.
slapping a painting together
It
or
is.
putting it on a wall even.
Right, and in fact, often we can get the paint that you use, you can actually get donated from Valspar, which is a really wonderful company that's been helping us when we've done murals.
And you get a lot of educators who come in and help teach these classes.
When we're doing those kind of projects, we have a lead artist who is also an educator. We've learned from experience to use educators who can work with teens and segue with teens and know how to encourage them to really bring out some of their creative ideas to put it all together. So when we're working with these lead artists, we're paying them for their services of doing that. And at our classes, we also work with professional artists who are also experienced educators. And with that, the experienced educators we have, those are also the core teachers that work with our partners, working with people with mental illness, women in recovery. We've done projects with women that are recovering from substance abuse. And often with these things, with marginalized populations, you're dealing with arts education, often arts and healing, arts and identity. We've worked with at-risk teens dealing with some stuff like that. We're about to start a new project up with Our Savior's Housing for people that are homeless. And that will be really exciting. We're starting
And
this fall.
there are a surprising number of homeless people in the Minneapolis area.
Yeah, especially with the downturn in the economy. It's
Yeah.
really affected a lot of people.
Yeah. So at any given point, how many people are participating in ArtiCulture?
It so varies so much, and it's also to some extent it's seasonal. We try to put those numbers together, and I would say, to be honest with you, we probably hit thousands of people through our festivals that we do, our classes, the marginalized populations that we work with. So it waxes and wanes to a great extent right now. We're taking a break in September. We just finished our summer camp program, which was exhausting for us. We probably had about, I'm guessing, about 500 kids come through this summer. So we touch a lot of people.
Now, I'm looking with my new bifocals that I can't use properly yet, but I'm looking here. You have 2013 fall art camps for children.
Classes.
Art Sprouts, a 9-week program for 12 to 24 months.
Yep, 1-year-old.
We Grow Art
And that's for
for ages
2-year-olds.
2 and caregivers, 9 weeks. Art Together
Yep.
for age 3 and 4.
Yep.
Art Blossoms, over here school age, Mix It Up, grades 2 and up. Clowning Around for 6 weeks, age grades 2 and up.
Yeah.
Incredible Comics, grades 3 and up. Art Blossoms, 4 and up, grade 4 and up, and Art Expedition, and that's grades 2 and up.
And so
And these are just some of the things that you do.
if you turn it over, you'll see teens and adults.
Many teen and adult classes.
Yeah,
Mean there's a place for me?
absolutely.
I don't see anything for geriatrics here.
We have a man who's been coming to us for years and years and years. He had a stroke. He used to be a chemist, had a stroke, and takes our drawing and painting class, and has been coming back and coming back and coming back. And his granddaughter also is taking classes at ArtiCulture, and his
That's interesting.
daughter came in and said that his physician has seen that the classes he takes with us makes a difference for his mental health and his physical
I
health.
have read articles that say that, people who get the opportunity to express themselves through art really do make large strides in their physical and mental health.
Yeah.
Physical, which is what surprised me. Mental did not surprise me.
I have to tell a story about someone who was involved in our project when there was one of the women in recovery. This is a woman apparently.
Believe it or not, we've only got a minute left.
Okay.
So
She
Really
made
quickly.
an artist book, and she said originally, "I am not an artist." And the teacher said, "We'll see." And in the end, at the very end of this class, 4-week class, she made this book. The left side was dark images. The right side was color and nature. And the woman said to our teacher, "The left side is death, and the right side is life, and you helped me see that."
that's interesting. Now you have an open house coming up December 6th.
Yeah, well,
From
actually, I have
5
an
to
open
7?
house in the next month or so for our sculpture project if people are interested to see what our teens are doing for this mosaic we're doing.
www.articulture, with a capital C in the middle,
Yes.
.org, or 612-729-5151. You also have a newsletter
Yeah.
that if people contact you, they will get a copy of the newsletter.
Yep.
And it's an amazing, amazing story. Liz Greenbaum, thank you very much.
Thank you.